G'day guys. There have been a ton of pretty massive updates to TreeFrogUI in the last few weeks, which if you have never heard of it before, is a custom front end for these low-end GB350 clones, like the R36SX, SF3000, and SF3500 to name a few, that turns it from basically junk into something actually worth using. While there have been a ton of bug fixes for various devices since the last time we covered TreeFrogUI, we will instead just focus on some of the bigger new additions. Also, if you were wondering why I don't have any joysticks, it's because we took them out in a previous mod video, since they are pretty much useless on this device. Now the steps to getting this set up and working are the same as in our last video, so we won't go through that again today, and instead jump straight in and take a look at what's new. I will link an install guide down in the description below as well though, just in case it's your first time hearing about this. Alright, let's get into it. So probably the biggest change is the new user interface. It looks pretty much the same now, only everything has been divided into 3 main tabs or groups. So at the very top of the screen, you can see there's Recents, Games, and Settings. We can press L1 and R1 to change between them. This alone just makes things a lot cleaner, but it gets even better. If we go to Settings and then go down to Style, you can see it's currently set to vertical, but if we press right and go to System View, and then go back to Games, you can see it does change it to icons. I think this looks absolutely incredible, but if you weren't a fan, as we saw, you could just change it back to the old minimal text list. But wait, there's even more. If we go back to Settings, go down a little bit, and disable Hide Empty Folders, just so we can see all of the new system icons. And then if we go back to the top, and go to Icon Pack, there are a bunch of different ones we can choose from. So by default, it's Pixel by Geltron. But if we change it to Silhouette Black and press L1 to go back to Games, this one doesn't look as good. It is sort of a minimalistic black and white theme. We'll go back to Settings. There's the same thing except in white. That looks a little bit better, but still not great. There's Default Cozy. They look pretty good. Also, it looks like our Hide Empty Folders has toggled back on. So I'll go back down and disable it once more. There we go. You do have to press A on it for it to take effect. So as mentioned, I think these new icons look really great. It just makes everything look way more modern. If we go back into Settings and then go back up, there's a few more icon packs we can try. There's Articons. Again, that's pretty minimal. There's another cozy one. That looks pretty similar to the last one, but I guess very slightly different. There's Cyber Onion. That's not too bad. Dot Art. That's pretty similar to Cozy, only with a pixel art effect. There's Hakchi Pixel Art. That doesn't look too bad either. There's NSO, which I believe is Nintendo Switch Online. And that doesn't look too bad. A lot of the icons are missing. There's Onion. And then back to Pixel. I think we might leave it on Cozy. Or Default Cozy. I will also go back down to the bottom and hide empty folders. Again, you do have to press A for the changes to take effect. If we go back to the Settings menu, there's also a new battery indicator. It's called Battery Color Mode. So by default, we have the classic 3 little bars. But if we turn it on, it changes it to colors. So green would be mostly full, I believe orange should be around 50%, and then red would be low. I do personally prefer the new color mode, since it just makes it easier to see what your battery is at with a quick glance instead of needing to try and count the tiny bars. The last UI change I want to show off today is the new background theme packs. If we go down to background theme pack, there's currently only 2 to choose from. There's Default, which is just Artbook Next, but there's also Canvas Pastel. This one doesn't look too bad. It is a little bit easier on the eyes. Selecting some systems will show a little icon in the background. For example, Odyssey, it's a folder icon, but for Pico 8, it's a little handheld. Doom's a little CRT, and Vectrex is back to a folder icon. Again, I am a massive fan of this new update, and if you weren't a fan of the old minimalistic look, it's definitely worth checking this new update out. Really great stuff. Another fairly big update, especially for Doom and retro first-person shooter fans, is the ability to play Heretic and Hexen. All you need to do to get these working is to drop your heretic.wad and hexen.wad files into the PR Boom folder. Nice and easy. You should be able to use these shareware versions, but we just use the full retail versions here to test. We'll start with Heretic. There is sound, but I'll turn it off. We'll press start and start a new game. So new game, episode 1, and I'll go easy. And I guess we'll start by going through the controls. You obviously use the D-pad to move around. Holding Y lets you run. Definitely needed. You press X to fire. The A button is use or open. So you need that to open doors. L1 and R1 let you strafe. Whoops, I am getting attacked. There we go. So L1 and R1 let you strafe, but you can also hold B and then use the D-pad left and right to strafe. So this is L and R, and then this is B and D-pad right and D-pad left. We can press L2 and R2 to change weapons. So this doesn't run too badly out of the box. It is fairly smooth, but if we press start and go down to options and then general, we won't be able to see the currently selected option, unfortunately. But if we don't press the D-pad at all on this screen and just press A, we can change the frame rate. So by default it's on 60, but if it does start to lag when there's lots of enemies on screen, maybe change it down to 50 or even 40. If we change it all the way down to 35, press A to save it and then press B to go back to the game and then start to close the menu, it does run a little bit too fast. As you can see, definitely faster than it should be. So I would recommend probably setting it to 50 frames a second. Perfect. Also, if you were wondering, in-game saves do work. We'll go game files, save game, empty slot, just press A. So our game saved, I'll move around, and then we'll press start, game files, load game, and then save 0, which is the one we just made. It does instantly load. I would say Heretic is absolutely perfectly playable on this. Really cool stuff. Next up is Hexen. This one does take a few seconds longer to load, but still well under 5 seconds total. And we'll press start and start a new game. I'll go Mage, I do like Mage. We'll go the easiest difficulty. And out of the box, it does run a little bit slower than it should be. I'll quickly kill this guy, there we go. Now the controls in this one are a little bit different. You use the D-pad to move around still. You press Y to jump, since this game does require some light platforming. X is fire as normal. A button is use or open doors. So if we go to the door and press A, it opens. L1 and R1 don't seem to do anything. I am getting attacked somewhere. There we go. If we press start, go to options, general, press A on this screen, and if we change the frame rate down to around 35, that may sound a little bit low, but if we press A and then press B and start, it does run nice and smooth, even when lots of enemies are on the screen. You can see there are some patches where it goes a little bit too fast, but it does sort of settle down when something happens. Also, you can still hold B to strafe left and right with the D-pad, so the L1 and R1 buttons not strafing aren't too big of a deal. Actually, L1 and R1 toggle between your items, I just noticed that. So this should be a health file. If we press A, it does select it, but I'm not too sure how we can actually use it. If we press R2 or L2, that doesn't do anything, although that might actually change the weapon. To be honest, I haven't gotten too far in Hexen on this, and I forgot to mention it in Heretic, but select brings up the on-screen map, the same as it does here, and start obviously brings up the main menu. I will mention you should not try and rebind the key map under options, and then setup, and then keybinds, since it does seem to actually break everything. I did try and rebind some buttons when I was testing, but it just ended up breaking other buttons. So if possible, don't try and remap anything. I guess we'll quickly check save and load work, so we'll go game files, save, we'll do slot 1 again, I'll move around, and then we'll load. Yep, loads instantly. So this doesn't play as well as Heretic, which is to be expected. It is a slightly different engine, but first impressions, it does seem playable, although you can't use items. It's still pretty cool to see it running as well as it is on the R36SX in the first place. Next up, we have a few new emulators to try out, starting with the Magnavox Odyssey 2, which I guess is pretty similar to the Atari 2600 as far as games go. This one does require a legally obtained BIOS called o2rom.bin that goes inside the QGM BIOS folder. You would then just put all of your .bin games in the rom/o2em folder. We'll load into Frogger first. It loads basically instantly, and if we press select, it does bring up a virtual keyboard, and from here, you use the D-pad to select a key, and the B button to enter it. So if I go to reset and press B, it does reset the game. If we go into the actual level, I can't seem to move around in this one. So pressing the D-pad does nothing, nor does any of the buttons. I'm not too familiar with the Odyssey 2, but I'm guessing you might need to flick a few switches on it, or change controller ports. We might quit out and try a different game which does work, which is just called Invaders. We do have to select a game apparently, so we'll press select, and I guess we'll go 0, and we're playing. So the D-pad moves around, and the B button is the only button on the joystick. It is only a single button joystick, as far as I know, similar to the Commodore 64 or Atari. I have no idea how to play this game though. I do keep dying, and I think it might be game over. It does at least work though. While Odyssey 2 emulation isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea, it is still worth checking out to see what gaming was like back in the late 70s. Now for the Vectrex. This one is super unique in that it uses vector graphics instead of the usual pixel plotting that just about every other home console used. Games still look pretty great, even today with the bright wireframe graphics. If we go into it, I guess we'll try Pole Position, a racing one, since I do think this one looks really great. It does take a little bit to load. The emulator itself loads basically instantly, as you would expect, but then we do have to wait for it to load the game. So it looks like it's finished loading, but it hasn't quite. There we go. So it's finally finished. We're straight into the game. There's no menu here. It does just dub you straight in. And for this one, we hold Y to accelerate, and then use the D-pad to steer. 2, 1, there's a countdown, and go. I think this actually looks really cool, especially for the age. It definitely looks way better than something like Rad Racer, at least in my opinion. And it does seem to work basically perfectly full speed, no issues. While not too many games were officially released for this, there is a small homebrew community around it, and I personally think the games look pretty neat, even if they are quite simple for the most part. Finally, we have the new Ebook Reader. All you have to do to get this one working is add all of your compatible ebooks to the ebook folder inside the ROMs folder. While there was no ebooks folder inside the ROMs folder in this specific version, there is one on the root of the SD card by default from the stock OS. So you can just drag that into the ROMs folder and then put all of your compatible ebooks inside. The official Ebook Reader docs mentions that it supports EPUBs, MOBI, PDFs, FB2s, CBZ, and XPS file types. But today, we'll just be trying out EPUBs, which easily look the best by far, PDFs, CBRs, which aren't officially supported, but are basically just the uncompressed version of CBZ, so I did want to try them out, obviously CBZ, and also plain text files, which again aren't officially supported. I guess we'll start by trying out a PDF. So I've just got the old Prima Pokemon Red and Blue strategy guide, and straight away you might be able to see a pretty big issue with PDFs. And that's that they are quite small and not full screen. I guess we'll start by mentioning the controls. You can press R1 right on the D-pad, or the A button to go to the next page, L1 left on the D-pad, or the B button to go back a page, L2 and R2 jump forward or back around 10%, select opens and closes the little on-screen menu, and select and start quits. When quitting out, it should automatically save where you were in the book. Now on this menu, we can change the text size. So by default, it's on 24. We can go quite large, 48 it seems to max out at. But this only works for certain formats. EPUBs, MOBI, and FB2s. We can also change the theme here. There's 3 to choose from. There's light, sepia, and dark. If we try sepia, let's press select to close the menu. It is a bit easier on the eyes, but you can see it does invert the PDF. It is the case for all pages. If we go select and change it to dark, the same thing happens. It is inverted. So unfortunately, there is no way to zoom or rotate PDFs. And as you can see, it is way too small to read, so try and avoid them if possible. We'll press select and quit back out. Next, I want to try a CBR file, which again are basically just uncompressed CBZs. And it says cannot open book, so they definitely aren't supported. I also tried renaming it to CBZ, so here it is again, just ending in .cbz. But if we try it, the same error, it just doesn't know how to read it. If we go back in and we try an actual CBZ file, this is an old Nintendo Power issue. It does work fine, but we have the exact same issue as PDF. It is just way too small. So my plain text file didn't show up at all, but I did try renaming it to .epub to see what would happen. And if we go down to it, it's just called text. It says R and it's supposed to be in EPUB. We'll open it up. But again, it cannot open the book. I wasn't expecting it to work, but I just wanted to see what would happen. Finally, we have EPUB, which again is easily the best. So everything looks really great. It's nice and fast to navigate. And if we go back to the start, there are images. There we go. Also, if we go back down to some text, press select, we can change the text size. So 36, it says reflowing, and then everything's much easier to read. Also, the themes work really great here. So we're on light by default. We'll go sepia. I think that is definitely easier on the eyes, but we can also go dark, which is probably even better for the eyes. If possible, try and stick with EPUBs. They just seem to work basically perfectly here. Nice and fast, no issues. Also, we are on page 50, so if we quit out and then go back into it, it does take us straight back to page 50. That is just a nice little feature to have. Overall, these are another batch of absolutely amazing updates by the sole developer, Prosty. I would even say the UI update is probably the biggest change since this came out. There's just so many customization options now, and everything is so smooth. I also really love the addition of Heretic and Hexen, which do play basically perfectly once you adjust the frame rate. The Ebook Reader is also pretty amazing, as long as you stick with EPUBs, Mobis, and FB2s, although we really only tried EPUBs today. The text is nice and sharp and easy to read once you adjust the theme and text size. If you have been hesitant to make the changeover to the new TreeFrogUI, there's never been a better time to try it out. Just make a full backup of your stock SD card before installing it, so you can easily go back to stock if you don't like it. You could also just use a spare SD card to try it out. With this, you no longer have to deal with editing CSVs to add games, and you do get a bunch of extra systems that you can emulate, and some nice quality of life features like fast forward and rewind, and the ability to swap PlayStation 1 discs in-game, which just isn't possible on stock OS. As always, great work, Prosty. But I think that'll do it for today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.